This is Green Bay Newsmakers, where your host Elliot Christensen asks the questions.
How did you get started? Anything you'd have done differently?
That highlight the best of northeastern Wisconsin's business community. And now, here's Elliot.
Welcome to Green Bay Newsmakers. I'm Elliot, and we are at episode number 2 with Cory Nicklaus, who is the owner of Liberty Café in downtown Green Bay. Hi, Cory.
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I know that Daniel and I have, you were at the top of the list. This is why
I'm honored.
You're really the first one. We did a test one with Daniel, which I thought went great, but they insist on editing. That's how it goes. So I'm going to jump right into some questions.
Okay.
If you don't have anything to jump in with yourself.
I appreciate you inviting me. I've been waiting for this all my life.
Oh, I'm sure this is the highlight of your life. So I want to hear about the story of how you started your business, okay, and kind of how that transpired a little bit.
Okay. Well, I had worked at Kavarna a long time ago, probably about 13 years ago. I worked at the old one where Jake's Pizza is now on Broadway, and I was the general manager. I worked there for about 6 months, probably. And I had always wanted to own my own business someday. Got a little bit of experience running the coffee shop. That's kind of the type of business I wanted to run. I didn't know about going into the food aspect as much, which I have to, and I can get into that later. But so ever since then, that was like my dream. Someday I want to own my own coffee shop and run it. It was probably the most fun I've ever had at a job in my life. So I kind of had that in the back of my head throughout the years, and started in the last few years, did my business plan, started looking at financing for a small business. And, I didn't think it would ever really materialize and happen, but then it started to. I pretty much got the financing for the business secured in September. That was more like August, September of 2015. So I was looking at locations. I'd been looking at locations for years. I was looking at the old Marquette Bakery on West Mason. Thought that would be a cool spot, and people knew it from Marquette Bakery. I was going to call it Marquette Coffee Company. That's the name that I had written my business plan around. So I looked at that place. Then I was looking at somewhere in the Art Garage on Main Street. And that's the last place I looked. And I was getting more and more excited because the financing was actually going through. And then Justin, my partner Justin, saw on Facebook that Linda and Alex were closing Liberty Café, and he texted me that day, and I called Liberty, and Linda, the owner, answered. I didn't think I thought I'd just get an employee, or Will, the manager. So she actually answered, and I said, "Hey, Linda, this is Cory." She goes, "Cory who?" And I said, "Cory Nicklaus. Remember, I used to work at Kavarna. I come into Kavarna every Sunday." She goes, "Oh, Cory." So then it clicked that who I was. And I said, "It's funny because you're closing and I'm actually looking for a location." I'm like, would you and Alex, as her husband, would you guys want to sit down, talk about the possibility? Because I said the financing was still kind of at the end going through. I didn't know how much I would get or anything like that. And so we ended up sitting down, talking. They showed me around the place, and then we eventually started negotiating like what they wanted for the business, because at that point they really didn't know for sure what they wanted, because it was the business, the equipment in the space. It would have cost me a lot more to build out a spot, to buy all equipment. So this it's like it was almost meant to be in a way, because I had already worked for Linda. They knew me, and they were really excited that I was interested in possibly taking it over. So it was perfect the way it happened.
Thank you for that. As an outsider, that's how it felt to me. It felt like this feels right. It felt like it was sort of predestined.
Kind of.
Even the name sort of fits you. I like every aspect of that. So when you went into business, did anybody try to talk you out of it?
People that I worked with thought I was crazy. Not really family members. My parents were all for it, and they probably said, well, are you sure you're going to be able to live off of this? And because I had a job at Humana Insurance for almost 11 years, and I had insurance, health insurance and dental and vision, and it was it was a secure job. So a lot of people, I'm sure there were people that were like, he's crazy behind my back.
Well, you totally are crazy. And there, I talked to Daniel
You need
about
to be
this.
a little bit.
There's a sickness that entrepreneurs have.
Yep.
And people on the outside, they don't understand. They think that it's about being rich and making a lot of money.
Right.
That's not the
That's
sickness.
not the case.
So how did you address the issue of insurance and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I'm going through the Affordable Care Act for my health insurance.
Okay.
Dental and vision, I'm just gonna. I have an HSA, so I can pay for some of.
So those things are
that.
okay. I mean,
Yep.
Did you have savings built up that you had?
I had a little
into?
savings built up, plus some of the money that I got for the financial business part to be able to pay my bills for a while before I start making money on the business. And you really don't make. I'm only almost 6 months into it now. I opened November 1st, so I'm making enough to pay the bills is what I'm making at this point, which is good. That's all I asked for, and I love going there every day, except Sundays. I'm closed right now.
Well, every day, yeah. So every day you're open, right?
Yep.
And if you can pay the bills, that's usually considered success,
Right.
For most entrepreneurs. So, and speaking of entrepreneurs, does that sort of crazy tendency run in your family at all?
Well, I grew up in a dairy farm, so my dad was self-employed. We were self-employed for years growing up. He sold the cows in, I think, my junior in high school. It was 1996. And then he got a job in a factory, and he's been there ever since. But
So is that where that question of, are you sure you're going to be able to make enough to live? Is that where that sentiment came from?
probably a little bit, because my dad was, they always experienced the debt and all that, and trying to pay the bills and make sure they could put food on the table and all that. So I don't have kids. So that probably helps me a little bit with not having to worry about putting food and clothes on my children,
Right.
besides everything else. But
Yeah, I have multiple levels of craziness. Yeah. So I have all of that stuff.
yeah, I mean,
And that is hard.
there were a few people, even a girl I'm really good friends with who I worked with at Humana, and she asked me a couple times, she's like, and multiple people said, so are you quitting your job, or are you just opening this coffee shop and you're going to have people run it for you? I'm like, no, the whole excitement about owning my own business, especially this kind of a business, is being there and talking to people and seeing customers, and that's just what's exciting about it. The paperwork and the going to the grocery store every day after work to get odds and ends stuff for the shop and ordering and the bills, that's not the fun part. The fun part to me and the exciting part is having fun at the coffee shop and seeing people and making them happy.
So it's like the definition of a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
You've heard that term before, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, you're not building it to be the next Microsoft.
No.
You want it
And
to
I don't
be
necessarily want it to be a chain or franchise it out in the future. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking it's fun to go to work every day compared to an office computer job. No offense.
I couldn't agree more. I would if I could own a coffee shop, I would totally do that.
Yeah, and I've had a couple people tell me, they're like, that was always my dream to open my own cafe too.
It's one of those things that everyone thinks they can do.
Yep.
Everyone thinks they can run a bar. I read a good quote from one of the guys that started Sardine Can.
Okay.
He said, everybody in Green Bay thinks they can run a bar. Everybody in Green Bay thinks they can coach the Packers.
Oh,
There's a few things everybody knows
Right.
they can do better than everybody else, right? And running a coffee shop, of course, lands right in there. I'm sure. So that actually brings up a good question for me. Do you get unsolicited advice that
Constantly.
Yeah. And how do you handle that?
I constantly, from customers, you should do this, you should do that. On Facebook, you get the instant messages on Liberty's Facebook page about, do you carry this product or that product? But a lot of it's customers who come in and ask about certain products that we carry. And, well, you should be more local. About the coffee, for one thing, this lady said that, well, you should be getting more local things. Like, I think she was referring to some of our local coffee roasters. And I said, well, I am local. The Anodyne's out of Milwaukee. It's not necessarily down the street local. We're in the farm field outside the city limits local, but I have my roaster out of Milwaukee that's still within the state.
Well, I mean, you can take that to a ridiculous extreme too.
Right. I could roast my own.
But nobody's growing coffee beans in Green Bay.
No.
So I mean, you could just be ridiculous about it. So what was I don't know. I don't want to embarrass anybody.
No.
And feel free to explain it as much as you want. But I'm curious about some of the customer feedback. Those suggestions, like you should do this. What's the I don't know. I would say the craziest one you've heard, the most undoable.
Like, I'll tell this story. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most undoable, but there have been other times, like somebody wanted sugar in the raw, so I got sugar in the raw. Somebody said we should change our plastic stirring sticks to wooden sticks. And then somebody wanted ketchup. So I went like, well, we don't have fries or anything, so I didn't get ketchup. Like, I never thought about little condimenty things because someone had asked for mayo one day, and I have all that little stuff. Every time someone suggests it, I usually will go pick up a couple bottles and keep there or whatever. And I got sugar in the raw now. And a lady, it was shortly after we opened, she asked for mayonnaise or mayo, and we didn't have mayo. Specialize for our food and grilled cheese sandwiches. Some people like to put mayo on. That never occurred to me. I never put mayo on a grilled cheese sandwich. But she said, "I can't believe you don't have condiments," she yelled out. So I always tell that story. and I she was so adamant about that and had to scream it out in the tiny little coffee shop.
Well, it's always amazing because everybody, I'm sure this falls into every business owner that does anything. Everyone else who isn't running your business always thinks they can do it better than you. So if you had any from the business angle, like you should do this, you should do that, or maybe take it from the other side. Why aren't you open Sundays and some of that stuff?
I was open Sundays for a little while. We were open 8 to 2 on Sundays, and we just weren't getting the foot traffic. And there has to be at least 2 of us there, because for one thing, at most times, because there's the safety of it, having at least 2 people there, and it's usually me and someone else. And I don't pay myself. So when I pay that other person, and on Sundays it was just slow enough where I did the math and it wasn't working. And at this point it was winter. So I'm like, maybe it'll pick up in the spring and summer. I can be open on Sundays again. But it's also nice to give myself a day off one time. Otherwise, with how slow it was on Sundays, if I hired 2 people to be there together on Sundays, I'm paying them to sit there, and there's no foot traffic right now. So I just said I'm going to be closed on Sundays and for the time being. But I did have a couple people post on Liberty's Facebook, "Oh no, you're closed on Sundays." And a couple people have stopped on a Saturday or during the week. They're like, "We didn't know you were closed on Sundays. Why did you close on Sundays?" And then when I explained to them about we didn't really get a ton of business on Sundays, it wasn't worth being open all day, then they understood.
And here I'm going to be exactly what I was just criticizing the whole world about, and I don't want it to sound like I'm giving advice, but I'm always amazed at how I don't know how you make that calculation, because until people know that you're open on Sundays, they don't know.
Right.
And especially when you're a new business, I don't know how you come to that. For example, I used to have a business right next to Kavarna, right? And it drove me crazy that I couldn't get coffee before, I think it was maybe before 8 o'clock, whatever the time was, right? And totally reasonable, totally explainable. But, I would want to go in, once every 2 weeks and get my coffee. So as a customer, you're like, this makes no sense. Of course, that coffee place is going to be open. However, there were very clear reasons at the time. So, and one of them was that I remember Linda said, well, we tried that. And I guess what bothered me about that is, so you tried it. So then how do you never fix it? I mean, so how do you think about that scenario?
Well, I always try to accommodate what customer suggestions as much as possible, like getting the condiments that they want and having more. We've expanded a lot of things since I've opened. And like I said, I might relook at being open on Sundays, especially when the Northland Hotel opens, because there's going to be more foot traffic and people staying there on weekends. It's like almost a no-brainer. I should be open on Sundays for sure when they open. And obviously Art Street weekend, I'm going to be open all weekend because it wraps right around the corner, my corner.
Right. So, and that always brings something up to me too. So, let's say I did stop by there on a Sunday of Art Street, and then I'm like, oh, this is great. These guys are open. Then I stop by the next Sunday. That it almost seems like an unwinnable battle. The whole hours open thing to me is always fascinating because you can tell people your hours and they're still going to mess it up. Right. And unless you go 24/7, I don't know how you ever reconcile that. So I'm asking questions out loud that I know there are no answers to.
Right. You can't. And I keep telling myself, because when I first opened, it's getting a little bit better, but this is just my personality. I want to please everybody. So when people give me the suggestions and they give me the feedback, I'm like, I hope they're not mad at me. Like someone called, they were having a meeting down the street, and she wanted to see if I could have coffee brewed and ready for their meeting, because we do the Joe to go boxes of coffee with cups and everything. And she said, our meeting starts at like 6:45 or 7. And she wanted to know if we could be open before I open at 7. She wanted to know if I could be open before that so they could get the coffee in time for the meeting to start. And I come in at 6. I get up at 5. I come in at 6 to open for 7. I'm also doing a lot of paperwork and things and baking and brewing the coffee and getting everything ready. Excuse me. And I explained on the phone that it's hard to do things and be open before 7 unless I come in another half hour, an hour, and I'm already coming in. I feel like come in early enough to open by 7 and to fit all those other things in. And she said, oh, well, then we'll have to try to figure something else out. And then I said, oh, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. So she actually had come in then, and I was so worried about, like, she's never gonna come here. She's probably hates me because I wouldn't make the coffee for the 7 o'clock meeting. But she had come in because she had regularly come in before that for coffee, and she was like, "Oh, we figured something else out." And I'm like, "Oh, she's not mad at me, but I take things personally, so a lot of the time."
Well, I think consistency is important though too.
Yeah.
So what for using that specific example, she totally knows that it's 7 o'clock.
Yep.
And maybe they'll change their meeting to start at 7:15. People do things like that.
Yeah.
So
and then she might tell other people they'll do stuff before they even open.
Right.
Go to them, and then I'll constantly I'll have to come in early all the time and do special things for people before our posted open hours. Because there was a guy once he was he went to yoga. He saw me in there because there's windows all around, so he saw that I was there when he went past after yoga. So he knew I was there. So he had requested to see if I could have an egg sandwich and whatever else ready for him when he gets out of yoga, which is like 6:45, because on his way to work, so he can just call ahead. I can make his sandwich and have it ready by like 6:45. And I said, well, we open at 7, so I can definitely start making the sandwich at 7 and have it ready for you. Because just like with the coffee,
Well, it becomes
you have to be consistent.
I know it's an overused term, but slippery slope, right? And how do you know where to bend? And almost automatically, when you bend somewhere in your business, you're giving something else up. So if that's your book work time, well, then you have to try to fit it in some other time, and that could come at the expense of other customer things.
Right.
So consistency to me is one of the hugest, most important things in business. Setting customer expectations and then trying to follow through. And boy, that's plenty. that is so hard sometimes. I know that. So I kind of want to just touch back on why you felt that you could succeed at Liberty Café. And I don't want to characterize it as failure on the part of who you bought it from, but they didn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason. So what made you think that was a good idea?
Well, they didn't close Liberty Café because they didn't make a lot of money. They have 2 little girls, and they have Kavarna, which is their established business. And Linda was always at Liberty, so she decided she wanted to, spend more time with her 2 little girls. So they decided they just didn't want to do all 3 because they had locked in their house too. It's an established name, and it's an established place. I was looking in the future at the Northland Hotel is going to be opening. And then it's like, I wasn't sure at first, like when, but now it's like it fell into place where like right after I got into it and reopened, then they really started remodeling. So they're on their way. So some of it's supposed to be open by the end of this year, I believe.
So that's a great answer. Do you think that what else are you doing? Knowing that there's probably been as many coffee shops that failed in the area as have succeeded.
Well, we kind of specialize in, I was given this advice by the previous owners that you can't just open it up as a coffee shop with some bakery and succeed in that spot. You have to have food. 60 to 70% of the sales were food. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Tom and Chi. It's a franchise. There's one in Appleton. Those guys started that as from Shark Tank. They were on Shark Tank, and they got the financing for that. So I kind of I didn't copy them, but I have grilled cheese sandwiches. We kind of say grilled cheese for the adult because there's other stuff on it besides just cheese. So you can get the big cheese, the Northland, the Liberty, the Kimberly. We call them different names after different places, except for the Kimberly.
So what's on those?
There's one with cheese, with 5 different kinds of cheeses. That's the big cheese. But they also come with tomato, red onion, mixed greens. You can take anything off.
And you, of course, brought me some to try.
Yes. There they are. So we have one with bacon and cheese, one with ham and cheese, one with turkey and cheese, one with chicken and cheese, and then one with all the different cheeses. And we have breakfast sandwiches, and they're all grilled. Some of the breakfast sandwiches are either bagel or English muffin, but we also have the early bird egg sandwich, which is a grilled egg sandwich that has salsa on it and cheese and ham or bacon, and that one's pretty popular right now.
So what is your most popular entree?
Well, we have a special sandwich that we have every week. That's Hannah's special. Hannah is my full-time employee. Okay. She comes up with all the specials every week. So this week it's the tuna melt. We always try to come up with fun names for those. So this week it's the meow meow tuna melt. for Lent. I don't know why. We just thought it was fun to say, and cats like tuna, so we call it the Meow Meow Tuna Melt.
Right.
Get it, meow.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're kind of corny.
Yeah.
Is it perfect?
It's perfect.
And
Perfect.
That voice that we heard, that was our producer Jacob, right? I
think that was him.
I feel like I should introduce him.
I'm here too.
Yeah. I should make sure to introduce Jacob at the beginning.
I'm a big fan of Liberty Café's sandwiches. I begged you to bring back the pizzeria sandwich.
And we did.
That is the best sandwich I've ever had.
So what's on that one?
Wow. That is pepperoni. It was a special. Hannah should be here because she remembers all these things. It was a special. It had pepperoni, I think provolone, dipping pizza sauce in the cup.
So just for the record, we're doing this at 5:50 p.m. I'm starving.
So am I.
So
I was surrounded by food all day, and I hardly ate anything. That's the funny thing about working in the food business is you're surrounded by food, but then you forget to eat. You have like a spoonful of, or a little tiny 4-ounce cup of soup once in a while, or
I think you should fight that urge as long as you possibly can, because once that breaks down, where you don't forget, I think it will never stop, and that's got to be rough. So I know that you just opened up this last fall,
November 1st.
Yeah, and you know what? We didn't call out where specifically you're located. So why don't you give a little background there?
Sure. It's on 228 North Adams Street. It's right on the corner of Pine and North Adams. So we have the Northland Hotel is right on the other side of the street. They're on the other corner of Adams and Pine.
And when is that new Northland Hotel slated to open?
I am hearing the first phase of it should be open by fall.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of bump do you expect to get out of that?
I have no idea, but everybody keeps telling me this is a gold mine. You're going to do so well once this hotel opens. They told me, though, that they're like, some of the head guys months ago when I first opened said there's going to be up to 180 construction crew here when they're like totally ramped up. I think right now we don't get many of them. We get some of the higher up guys that'll come over for lunch or meeting and just get coffee. But right now, I think it's a lot of these guys who are hired on just to do the demo. I don't know if we'll pick up once they have all the people putting in the pipes and the electricians and the carpenters.
See, so that's super interesting. I wasn't thinking of, because it's such a big project, I wasn't thinking of all the people that are involved in making the project. I was thinking of the customers that will stay there. And in Green Bay, we have, there are some conventions and whatnot, and there's business that goes on and people need to stay at hotels. But typically, most of the hotels are filled for Packer games. So do you have any thoughts on that, especially, the whole Sunday thing? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, once the Northland Hotel is open, being open on Sundays is probably most likely 99.9% going to happen. I can't see it not happening because you're going to get a lot of out-of-towners who are looking for the nearest coffee shop in the morning, and I'm right across the street. So if I'm closed on a Sunday, that's probably not a good idea. That wouldn't be smart.
So Green Bay is super unique that way, and I'm glad. We joke that I stopped on Starbucks on the way here, right? And when I'm out of town, I try to visit local places when I travel. But I mean, quite honestly, it's pretty easy to hunt down a Starbucks.
Right.
When I think about where the hotels are in town and where the coffee shops and where the Starbucks are located. I think that I wouldn't classify it as a gold mine, but I feel like we're doing some cool, interesting things as a community that the money doesn't just go to Starbucks automatically.
Right.
So that is pretty cool. Have you had any struggles after you launched?
Well, I wasn't expecting, because I never had a grand opening. I had an article in the paper, the Press Gazette, that I was planning on opening around November 1st, and that was a Sunday. I just decided to pretty much open my doors on November 1st. I had a part-time person who was a friend of mine who I hired on. He works name is Dustin. He works like every other Saturday and one Tuesday a month because he has a full-time job. But he was like the only person I really had with me. And that Sunday was crazy busy, mostly family and friends and people who knew that I was going to be opening. So they were all checking it out. And I was still kind of experimenting with things. And, I couldn't sleep the night before. The whole 2 days before, I had a huge knot in my stomach. I didn't know what to expect. And then I got crazy busy that day. I'm like, this isn't even a grand opening. I'm like, this is supposed to be a soft opening, because then there were people that noticed we were open again, and they were walking off the street coming in. So I had one little grill. Now I have 2 grills because there are times that you can only fit like 3 grilled cheese, and some of our lunches get pretty busy during the week especially. So Hannah, who's my sandwich artist, convinced me to get another grill because she does all the cooking during the week. But I guess I just wasn't expecting, because then that whole first week I had people like helping me out. My friend worked at Republic. He was a chef. He helped me like 1 or 2 days that week before I hired Hannah on full time, because she had to give notice to her other job. So she couldn't really work much that first week and help me. So I was kind of like all the area businesses were coming in at lunch. We were standing room only for a while there because everybody wanted to check out the new place, and that's usually the way it goes. But like, I hardly even advertised that I was open. People said they saw it in the paper, and they just saw that we were open again, so they were coming in to check it out.
So have you been generally happy with how much business you've been getting?
There's days like this winter, we had the bad snowstorm. I couldn't open.
You mean right now?
Yeah. I'm kind of worried about tomorrow morning. I'm like, Hannah, I'll let you know if I'm going to open tomorrow morning, depending on if I can get out of my street.
I just got a text message from Gina that said, better start shoveling.
Already?
I'm not sure if that was a question or if that was a statement, or if it means she's going to start shoveling, or I'm not really.
I don't think it pays to start shoveling, because it's going to have to go through.
And like I said to Daniel, I'm like, no, I'm done with that this year. I don't care if we get 5 feet of snow.
Just going to let it melt.
I'm just letting it melt. And
it'll probably melt within a couple days.
It should. Yeah. I mean, it was 38 degrees this morning, so I don't know. Yeah, weather eludes me, because I'm like, where up until when we started, there was 0 snow.
There were some snowflakes coming down when I came in.
It was just coming, yeah.
No. But they said a guy came into the cafe today, and he said that Oshkosh was getting pounded, and that was at like 3:45.
So has that been the most regular impediment to business, is weather?
I think it's weird because it's like on a really frigid, cold day, we'll be slow. Then if it gets a little nicer, we'll be really busy. Some of the challenge is you don't know from day to day if you're going to be busy or not. People can walk over to Herbs and Gerbs, or, today let's go to Liberty. You just don't ever really know.
And when you're
what
a small
day is
business,
going to be
a
busy.
swing of 10 customers could be a big swing.
Yeah. No.
So how do you handle that?
I try to advertise as much as I can for free and get plugs. Like I'm getting a plug in the Frankly Green Bay, because they interviewed the artist for the April issue who has his artwork. He just put his artwork up, Edwin Fraga, and he's a Cuban artist, and they're going to plug that he's showing at Liberty Café. I've had an article in Quest magazine when it was probably like a month or 2 after I opened. They put an article in there that I was open. I've had the Press Gazette. I try to post as much on Facebook as I can, on Liberty's Facebook. I post the specials, the soups of the day, any special drinks or anything that's going on that's new. Trying Liberty After Hours, where I have like once a month I have live music or open mic to get people to come in there. Participated in gallery night back in November during the holiday.
So what things that you've done from a marketing perspective have worked surprisingly well? Maybe take that first.
Well, there are people who come in regularly, and they come in just for the special of the week. So we have a lot of the Schreiber people will come in sometimes Monday through Friday and get the special. They just like to come in every week to check out what the special is and to try that. And the special doesn't necessarily mean that it's cheaper. It's just the special that
it's something new.
Yeah,
it's special.
It's not something that's always on the menu. So we're also going to try to expand a little bit. We brought in the early bird egg sandwich, and so we're trying to change things up, not just have the same 5 or 6 sandwiches on the menu all the time. We try to add things. We're probably going to add some more things.
So I know you forget to eat, but what's your favorite menu item?
Something simple. It's just the English muffin egg sandwich.
Okay.
It's just simple, but it's really, really good.
Yeah. And you said that, so aside from specials, what's a regular menu item that's popular?
The Kimberly's really popular. It's named after my partner whose sister Kimberly passed away of cancer, actually. So we named a sandwich after her. When she was alive, we'd always go to Kavarna, meet on Sundays and talk. And she made jewelry, and I always told her about my dream of opening a coffee shop. So I said, you can sell your jewelry at my coffee shop someday. And she was always really excited. We'd be brainstorming different names for the coffee shop. And so when she passed away, I just decided to name a sandwich after her, kind of in memory of her.
So what's on that one?
That's the turkey, cheddar, and then the greens, tomatoes, red onion.
I really appreciate the fact that a lot of your sandwiches are named after local businesses or important parts of Green Bay. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool.
Yeah, the Why Not is after the YMCA. We have the Northland, the Liberty.
So my question is, when are we getting a Green Bay Newsmakers sandwich?
It's never going to happen.
It's not. It's not really a catchy name. Not a catchy name for a sandwich.
All right, then we need a Jacob sandwich.
Well, I think that's more likely.
Well, next week, the sandwich of the week is the Fricky Friday sandwich, but it's going to be Monday through Saturday because our sandwiches are. So we're going to say every day's Friday.
I think there'd be a lot of fans of that. Yeah. Friday's a popular day. One
of my best friends, and I met her when I worked at Humana. She was my work GF, my work girlfriend, and I was her work boyfriend. Her last name is Fricky, and ever since I've opened, she's been bugging me. When are you going to have the sandwich of the week for me? When are you going to name it? Get a Fricky sandwich for the sandwich of the week. I'm like, no one's going to know what that means. Well, now they will if they listen to this podcast.
Yeah, and you could probably turn that into something. The naming rights to it. Not that you'd sell it or anything, right, but attach some kind of, I don't know, something to that. Maybe that you name it after artists that bring in some artwork to put out or something. I don't know. See, there again, I'm telling a business owner what they should do.
Yeah, well, we got some input from Jill, and her name is Jill Fricky, and about what she likes. So she wanted something spicy because she's a little spicy personality, and so I'm not going to reveal what it is yet. You have to look on Facebook for that, but it'll be next week.
So
it's a roast beef.
So
sandwich.
Can you give us any reveals?
It's going to be a roast beef sandwich with a coffee, brown sugary barbecue sauce.
Cory.
Yeah.
Could you share with us what the URL for your Facebook page is? That way we can check that out.
It is Liberty Café Green Bay on Facebook.
Nice.
And the website is libertycafegreenbay.weebly.com.
So I like to always find out how your business life has changed your personal life. Mm-hmm. And like you discussed, you don't have any kids, mm-hmm. but have you had any surprising changes in the migration from working over at Humana to being an entrepreneur?
I think you would think that my stress level would have gone way up from working for myself and as an entrepreneur and going through the learning process, but I think it's more exciting to me. I think my stress level has gone down a lot, actually, because the position I was in was pretty stressful at Humana. So, and this is something that I always dreamt about doing, and I love going there every day and seeing the people. So I think that helps my stress level. I've got closing down to a science though, where I can usually get out of there by 4:20-ish, unless I have some stragglers customers. I don't kick anybody out if they're still there at 4. I just kind of turn the signs around and wait for them to figure it out. Usually I wouldn't kick anybody out. I mean, if they're there for like an hour after, I might say, we closed at 4, by the way, and I really want to go home. But I do a lot of odds and ends running around after work. So sometimes I don't get home. It's like at Humana, I work 7 to 3:30, and I was home by 4 because I worked out in De Pere. But now I get done at 4, but a lot of times 3 or 4 out of the 7 days, I got to go to the bank. I got to go to grocery shopping for odds and ends stuff.
Well, and that's the thing that people that are not in the entrepreneur world don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are never off duty.
No.
You can flip the sign around, but you're still working.
Right.
Even if that's just in the back of your head, you never fully disengage from that. You could be on vacation in Belize and you're still going to be thinking about sandwiches for next week. That's just the way it is if you're a real entrepreneur.
And Hannah's, I said, was my full-time person. She's like, you got to go get this, you got to go get that. She does a lot, like all the cooking during the week. So she's telling me she makes the lists of what I need to get. She goes through our vendor order. She goes through everything because she knows what we're running low on or running out of, or what needs to be thrown away and what I need to replenish. And she comes up with our orders every week for all that. And I'm slowly giving her a little more responsibility with the ordering for the vendor every week. So that takes a little bit away from me so I can do something else and focus on something else. But we'll text each other even on the weekends or at night about different sandwiches or specials we want to do or things we want to change. So it's ever evolving. The one thing that I don't do much anymore is grocery shop for myself. I don't really have that many groceries at home anymore.
But it's working for you. You're nice and you're trim, you're fit.
Speaking of Jill, my work girlfriend, she told me the last time she saw me, she told me I need to eat a cheeseburger because I have probably lost a little weight since I quit Humana.
You look good, man. I think it's fine. So have you had any things that, and you're such a positive guy, such a nice guy. Everybody loves you. But are there any things that have, was that snow lightning?
Oh my God. I thought it was snow thunder or whatever they call that.
The entire building shook if the microphones didn't pick that up. I'm like, did we move to San Francisco? Is Godzilla outside? What is going on?
Oh boy. That kind of scared me for a second there.
So other than being run over by a train, what other negative things have come up in these last 6 months or so?
The one thing that stands out to me is 2 months, maybe a month and a half into being open, my display cooler went out. Like, it didn't work anymore. And I'm just like, we haven't even been open 2 months and now I have to put money into this thing. And literally I had to put a lot of money into it, but it was cheaper than buying a new one or a new used cooler. And now it's fixed. It only took almost a month and a half to get it fixed because they had to order the whole coil part. It had to be made.
So I asked about the negative thing, and you said the cooler. I am curious about what you feel like your greatest success was, especially if that was surprising, something that you didn't expect.
I guess I haven't had anything that stands. Haven't won any awards yet or anything, but the biggest thing that stands out when people review me on Facebook, and I've had really good reviews so far, knock on wood, because whenever I get a notification, I'm kind of obsessed with Liberty's Facebook page. I'm constantly looking at it and updating it whenever I get a chance. That's a big part of, I think that's a big part of the business, because I personally always go to a business's Facebook page when I don't want to see like what kind of food they have, or that's the first place I go, think about going, even before I go to Yelp or their website or anything like that. So I like to make sure it's updated, because when I look at a business's Facebook page and they haven't updated it in months or maybe even a year, but they're still open, I feel like they're disconnecting from everybody in the world, because Facebook is the thing right now, at least. So when I see a notification that there's a new review for Liberty, I panic a little bit, and before I open it, and Hannah teases me about that. She goes, "What if it's a bad one this time?"
Well,
But-
and your business is an extension of you,
Right.
so of course you feel that way. But
And like I said, I take things personally a lot of times, and sometimes I probably shouldn't, but I do, and I want to make everyone happy. And so the good reviews so far, that's one success, that all the reviews on Facebook at least have been nice. And
well, I think that reflects on your personality more than anything. And I know you have other people involved, but I feel like you've done good things in bringing these other people into the organization as well. Way better than I would do. Like I would have a horrible coffee shop. I would have kick-ass coffee, but people would be like, "Oh, hey, I would like this," and I'd be like, "Screw you, get out of here."
I think
I might say it a little bit nicer, but probably not a lot. You know,
I'll do what I want to do.
I do what I want to do. I might say that.
I thought in my head, you always think in your head what you would really like to say sometimes. And I thought, next time someone tells me I should do this or I should do that, I was going to say, "Well, here are the keys. You go ahead and run it, and you pay the bills now. That's fine."
So that's the clear-cut difference between you and me, because I would literally say that to some people. And I think I've said things more or less like that.
Yeah.
It always drives me crazy. Everyone thinks that, much like they can run a coffee shop, everyone feels like they are a better web developer than actual web developers, right? Yeah. I'm sure that there will be people who will critique my my interview skills, and I'm the first one to say I'm really horrible at it, and could use a lot of recommendations actually. So I'm kind of I would actually welcome that myself right now.
I probably couldn't do it. And I always wanted to go into radio.
Totally not true. You have an amazing voice.
Oh, thanks.
And yeah, I'm afraid like Daniel's interviewing you here to replace me.
No. Because
and you totally could. If you weren't booked up at the coffee shop, he's thinking, yeah, he's super nice. He's got a voice for it. He's punctual. Yeah, he would be perfect.
I think I was more on the side of not being a talk show host or anything, but doing like scripted voiceover work, because I can flip into the announcer voice.
Give me your announcer voice.
Could you tell us?
I'd like to hear it.
Could you tell us that Green Bay Newsmakers is the best podcast that you've ever heard?
Are you gonna clip that?
Go ahead.
Cut that out.
Go ahead, Jacob.
What did you want me to say again?
Green Bay Newsmakers is the best podcast I've ever heard.
Green Bay Newsmakers is the best podcast I've ever heard.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, now I think we owe it to him to give a little Liberty Café spot that he could use.
Liberty Café is the best coffee shop I've ever been to.
I knew that's where that was going to go. Amazing. So I think we could sell that. I think that's a sellable sound snippet. Too crazy, man. So is there anything over the last 6 months that you would, if you could do it over, you would do differently?
Oh, shoot. I don't want to say anything that... Because people are going to listen to this, right? I'm just kidding.
No. This is just you and me. I don't even think Daniel's going to listen to it.
I might listen to it.
Jacob has to listen to it.
Because I want to post it. So I don't want to offend anybody. But
Well, then you
I don't
shouldn't be
know.
talking to me because it automatically starts out a little bit offensive.
oh, anything I would change?
Well, anything you would do differently. So, I mean, I'm not looking for you to trash talk anybody necessarily, but and even if in your heart you feel like that, I don't know that maybe you would just do something differently that would have avoided some of those. I don't know what you're referring to when you paused.
I think I know.
I don't. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I know I'm an exciting
Standardized the
interview.
number of eggs.
Well, okay, so I mean, maybe that's not a fair question because you have only been in business 6 months.
Maybe ask me a year from now.
Yeah, so maybe a year
Or
from now.
6 months from now.
Yeah.
When I'm in business a year.
So, what do you see as the next mountain to climb, so to speak? What's now you opened, you're sort of established. What's your next milestone?
Just adding more of a variety to the menu. We're going to probably try wraps, some different wraps, not just solely having the grilled everything. Oh, we're known for our grilled cheese, having more of a variety on the menu probably when the spring and summer months come, and continuing to get our name out there more and more. Because I was at a meeting this morning with different entrepreneurs, and there was a man from the Wells Fargo that just opened up like literally a block from me and didn't know that Liberty Café existed, and they're blocked down. So promoting, probably going out there and promoting, dropping off menus, cards to the area businesses, which I did some of before I even opened. I dropped off little free coffees with the purchase cards, told people in the office, like at the front desks, that I'm going to be reopening around November 1st. Come in, check us out. I'm printing off to-go menus like crazy, so people are picking those up all the time and bringing them back to the office.
I think that works really well. Yeah. And it gets your face out there.
Right.
Lets them put a face with the business, I think, in every way. And even if it's not you, if you have a staff person do it. As a downtown business, I loved when somebody came in with a menu, especially if they had any free samples attached to that menu. Like, you remember that. I feel like that's a marketing thing that works. Do you have things that you feel worked well or didn't work well I guess, like, I'm looking for things that really surprised you. So it sounds like the walking around meet and greet kind of worked for you, maybe to the point where you felt you didn't have to do it for a while.
I think it's something that we need to do more of, that I maybe didn't hit all the businesses that I didn't hit all the downtown businesses, and there's a lot right in that area that's something that we need to start. I need to start going out and doing more of.
Did anything not work? Like you mentioned before that you were in a few magazines and a few newspaper things. And these could be free things, paid things, whatever. But anything that you feel didn't work as well as you maybe felt like it should have.
The thing that pops in my head just right now is that the Sundays didn't work initially, so I started closing on Sundays. But I think that's something that's going to pick up in the future.
Well, I mean, like, so businesses are always looking for marketing tips. So, and maybe we'll just do it like this. If you could give some marketing advice to somebody starting a new business, somewhat like yours, what would you tell them?
Well, the advice I got was not to do like Groupons, which I guess in this type of a business, I was told, the advice I got was it makes you look cheaper if you do coupons all the time. So I haven't done anything like that, except for I've had specials like we hit 1,500 likes on Facebook. So I was doing that following Monday, I was doing free coffee with purchase. Little things like that, and I've been advertising on Facebook about all those things. Right now I feel like I don't have the budget to put my ad out in a ton of magazines. I might do Edible Door coming up in their next issue, but I just feel like getting my name out there for Liberty Café is a lot more word of mouth. And
so it's always the cliche that people will businesses spend half their money is wasted. They just don't know which half on marketing costs. So I think small businesses are always looking for that edge, that special thing that really works for them. And you talked about Facebook a few times, and it sounds like that's probably your number one marketing thing. You got any? You have any advice for anybody on what's worked well for you on Facebook?
Well, we always Monday mornings we make Hannah makes the sandwich of the week. On Monday mornings, we take a picture of it, all pretty on the plate, cut with whatever, and then we post, and then we'll try it before we post it to see if it's any good. And they usually are. Hannah makes them. So she comes up with some good ones, some tasty ones, and then we'll post it on Facebook. Sometimes on like a Sunday, I'll post, because I know what the sandwich is going to be. We always decide the week before, or sometimes a couple weeks before. And she will, or sometimes I'll just post something, the sandwich of I'll give like a little teaser. So there are people that specifically will come in for the special because they've seen it on Facebook and they said it looked really good. I always put the pictures are worth 1,000 words. So I have M's Cupcakes who makes our cupcakes. So she makes a different one every week. We sell those. So people are looking at what's going to be the next cupcake, and people will come in, what's the sandwich going to be next week? They'll say that like towards the end of the week. We've also gotten customer requests. Oh, can you do this? And we'll try to do something similar to what they're asking for. A lot of Schreiber guys do that because they come in. There's a couple that come in religiously. I guess just posting a lot of pictures of our products on Facebook, and we always have the Hannah's Special of the Week sandwich, which people I think look forward to. We also try to post our soups every day so people know what they are going to be if they're planning on coming in.
So photos and consistency in the days and the times. Would you say those are important things?
Yeah, because I always post Monday mornings, post what the sandwich of the week is. Usually Wednesday I'll remind with the picture again, remind what the sandwich of the week is. So I guess repeating so it comes up in people's feeds and they see what the stuff is, and it reminds them that we're still there and what we have going on. And
something I've noticed as I have liked your Facebook page and I visit it quite regularly. Something you do that so many businesses don't do is you respond to people. When someone comments on something saying, hey, that looks good, you're there to respond to it. And I think that's really important.
I usually try to, if someone posts something, I'll try to like it right away. So they see that Liberty's paying attention to them and they like it. And
right.
And if they post a review, I'll usually like it as Liberty.
So I think we're almost out of time. So a couple of things that I'm curious about now that you're sort of in the restaurant business. What are some of your favorite businesses, if there's other things, but favorite restaurants around town too?
I know we're like the competition, but my favorite coffee shop isn't Liberty Café. Because I work there and I'm the owner, my favorite coffee shop is Kavarna, and I've always loved Kavarna. And I like their food and I love their coffee. Well, we both have anodyne coffee, but I like the atmosphere.
So, any other small businesses that now that you've been in the business world a little bit, any other small businesses that you find interesting or inspiring or anything like that? Most of the comments that we've gotten on our Facebook page is that the staff is very friendly because we're small enough place where we can, unless we're slammed busy, we can almost always
welcome the people in the door. When they walk in, we at least acknowledge, say, good morning, or how are you? How's it going? And then when they're leaving, we can say, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. And I try to, unless I'm really busy, we try to go, I and my employees try to go around like when they're halfway through or they took their first couple bites, and people order at the counter. We bring out their food when it's ready if they're dining in. But we always try to go through and tell them or ask them how their food is. We've had really good comments. Oh, it's delicious. Then I'm always like, tell your friends to come back and try us out. And
have you noticed that to work? Do people come on
yeah, people come in.
recommendations?
Oh, like the lady today, she goes, I work with a lady who said that she had the best grilled cheese sandwich here. She's like, can I get the grilled cheese? And I said, which one would you like? Because all our sandwiches are grilled cheese.
So is there anybody that has given a bunch of referrals that you want to call out?
Not necessarily any specific person that I we have a lot of regulars, but I wouldn't know I don't know everybody's name yet.
No, I was actually more curious than anything about that.
I know one person, he's a friend of mine, Brian Faustini. He actually works part-time at Kaleidoscope, serving and bartending, Kaleidoscope Eatery on Broadway, and which is one of my favorite places to go eat. Besides Kavarna is my favorite coffee shop. They're one of my favorite restaurants. Unfortunately, they're going to be closing, which everyone knows. But
So what's your favorite coffee or coffee drink?
straight up black coffee,
Just
or an
black-
Americano,
Okay.
which is 2 shots of espresso with hot water.
And any particular blend or style or anything?
I love the Liberty Café blend.
Okay.
It's a darker roast. It's a more on the between medium and dark roast. And it's we sell pounds in the store, and we usually brew it as our dark roast, as our house blend.
Yeah, and before we got on air, I mentioned that too, that I typically like darker coffees, and maybe to the point where they're burned. I never roasted my own coffee, so I don't know where that line is drawn. So I'm a coffee amateur, and you're a coffee professional. So I'm looking for coffee.
I'm still
guidance.
learning.
Yeah. Anything that you've learned in the last 6 months about coffee that you'd like to share?
There are a lot of different tasting notes, especially Anodyne always puts their tasting notes, and I was interested to see that for the Liberty blend, bourbon is a tasting note. There isn't actually bourbon in them, but when I went to train down at Anodyne, their roasting facility in Milwaukee, it's in Bayview, just learning about how they decide what the tasting notes are, because they do different blends, or they'll just brew the coffee and they sift it, kind of like they kind of smell it and go breathe it in as they're like sifting it, like out of the cup, and that's how they taste it with the oxygen, and they decide kind of amongst them what kind of taste they might taste at that point. So I kind of did that with them, and I'm like, oh, it kind of tastes like vanilla, but I'm drinking a vanilla latte, so I don't know if that's still on my tongue. And they're like, no, that sounds about right. I taste vanilla too. Or someone will say, it kind of tastes nutty, like almond. And then they come to a consensus, and that's kind of what they put on their coffee. Is
that a common thing?
I guess it is, because I got a sample from Glass Coffee, and they call theirs flavor notes, and one thing was like nutty banana flavor or something in it. I'm like, I didn't taste the banana when I tried it, but
I think we're about out of time. Am I correct, Jacob?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, thanks for coming, Cory.
Thanks for asking me.
If there's anything else you want to share, again,
I feel like it was in a job interview. I was nervous. I felt nervous.
Well, you didn't sound nervous to me.
Okay.
You have an amazing radio voice.
Thank you.
I might just go hit play at home and just let this your soothing voice put me to sleep. That's the wrong way to say it. But like you have that calm, confident radio voice.
Thanks.
And so once again, you're located where again?
228 North Adams Street. It's right on the corner of North Adams and Pine, right across the street from the Hotel Northland that they're remodeling.
And if anybody wants to find out more about Liberty Café, they should do what?
They can go to our Facebook, which is updated daily, pretty much daily. I might take one day off here and there, but all of our specials going on, the menus out there. The Facebook page is Liberty Café Green Bay, and our website is www.libertycafegreenbay.weebly.com.
We got to work on that.
I know. We got to drop the Weebly. But I didn't want to pay, so I didn't drop it yet.
You're a smart entrepreneur, but I would like you to pay me.
I know.
So that's all I got. Unless you have anything else, Cory, thank you very much.
I just want to thank you for inviting me, and I hope I don't sound like a dork.
You totally
on the radio.
You totally sound like a dork. For more information on this episode or to read our show notes, go to greenbaynewsmakers.com/2 for episode 2. That's a number 2. greenbaynewsmakers.com/2. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter, or even better, submit a show review to iTunes or Stitcher. To listen to other episodes of Green Bay Newsmakers, visit greenbaynewsmakers.com/episodes. To support our podcast, please visit our sponsors who make this show possible. You can do this by visiting greenbaynewsmakers.com/sponsors. Green Bay Newsmakers is a proud member of the Newsmakers Podcast Network, an ever-growing network of podcasts covering a wide range of topics. Check them out at npcn.tv.
Thank you for listening to Green Bay Newsmakers. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest on the show, email us at guests@greenbaynewsmakers.com. To stay up to date, visit greenbaynewsmakers.com or connect with us on Facebook and Twitter.